What up, though? I'm Cedric Sutton. This is Balance of Power. You came here to learn, so let's get it in. Alright, today's lesson is going to be about conversations that you should have had with your person. Now, I recently ran across this in one of the counseling sessions I had with somebody, and I was amazed at the fact that y'all aren't having conversations that you should have. I'm coming in the middle of these situations with couples, and I'm like, y'all haven't talked about this yet? What are you doing? Why are you even getting with somebody if you don't know these things about your person? These are conversations you should have had before you got into things like marriage or living together or even long-term commitments. These are things you need to find out as soon as possible. You don't have as much time as you think you do. Things are going to be catching up with you way faster than you thought they would. Life will catch that ass. Life in the form of your feelings. If you don't start to learn who this person is, you're going to be spending all this time together and you're going to be catching feelings. It's funny that we call it catching feelings now versus just I have feelings or I don't know, gain them. We say catching it like it's a disease. Like you don't even know. Like, oh snap, why do I love her? It's going to happen to you. So if you aren't finding out before you start feeling something about this person, you find out that they're, I don't know, an axe murderer. Maybe that's something you should have found out before you found out you love them. Yeah. Anyway, other than the Dexter Morgans of the world, we're going to continue. So life will catch up with you in the form of feelings. You're going to catch feelings before you thought you would. Life is going to catch up with you in the form of, I don't know, things like living together. All of a sudden, she just needs a place to stay because her roommate kicked her out and you're her boyfriend. We're not going to talk about that. But the fact is, if you don't find out before those kinds of things happen, or, I don't know, you doing your thing like normal, and all of a sudden, oh snap, I'm late, I'm pregnant, but you didn't find out who this person was before you're now in this position, you need to find out. So, you need to find out who you're with as soon as humanly possible because life don't stop for nobody. Oh, and by the way, don't listen to anybody telling you, oh, you have all the time in the world. That's none of your business. Nah, it's all your business. It is your business who these people are in asking these questions that we're going to go over. Why? Because your life, as we just talked about, starts to get intertwined. You don't want to all of a sudden be having a baby with somebody and you don't know these key things. What the hell? So yes, it is your business because they are spending time with you. It is your life as well. And especially if you start moving down the line in terms of like living together, and especially if you're talking about marriage. Now, this particular couple that even sparked this whole thing, they're married and I was tripping like, how? You couldn't even know where I live if I don't know these things about you. I'm like, think I'm playing. There's plenty of women who I've dated who have no idea where I live. And that's just facts. First, I'm going to list them all off, and you can write them down because you should be taking notes. Or, like I said, you can watch these videos again. I'm cool with that. But then after we list them all off, we're going to go through each one in very quick, in-depth moments. Now, if you want something more in-depth with each of these as to why, let me know in the comments. If you want longer videos, hey, just let a brother know. Alright, let's get into it. So, here they are. Religion. Finance. Politics. Child rearing. Objective of the relationship. Family goals. And exit strategy. Damn. Yeah, I know. But there's reasons. We're gonna get into it. So now, those first three on the list are known as the no-nos of conversation. Now, if you're not from the US, then maybe you don't know this, but we're pretty much taught that those three things in the beginning, religion, finance, politics, that those are the things you don't talk about with people in conversation, in polite conversation. So if you're at a dinner party, or even if you have friends that you've known for a while, or even family members, some people are taught, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion, don't talk about money, just don't talk about these things. Nah, homie, we gonna talk about these things. You have to. It's imperative. All of these things, you shouldn't be in a relationship with somebody if you don't know these kinds of things. So starting with the first one, just really quickly, religion. Now first, you need to know, one, if you're religious. Rule one, know thyself, of course. Are you religious? Is religion important to you? All of these things about yourself before you even ask the other person. So you could kind of, I guess, discover that with them, but at the same time, ask them this, know that of them and of yourself. So if you're not religious and you don't really care about religion, then you can still ask them about theirs, because just because you're not religious, maybe they are. Maybe religion is like a huge thing for them. Or maybe it's not necessarily a huge thing for them, but it's big for their family. Meaning, they mama, they daddy, they uncle, they cousin, whoever that they're influenced by is vastly religious, and so therefore whoever they're with has to be either of the same religion or be willing to do certain religious ceremonies or customs or holidays or whatever, where they're like, yeah, I'm kind of like Jewish for Hanukkah or something. Or do they follow something like Kwanzaa, which, by the way, I have never met a black person that we actually celebrate Kwanzaa. I've yet to see it. I'm sorry, Dr. Karanga. I'd have met you, but I don't know nobody who do that. For real though. Anyway, is religion important to them, important to you? What kind of religions do you have? Are you okay with being with someone of a different religion? Is it something that you're going to do later in life? Is it something that you're going to do with your kids, where you're like, well, I'm not religious right now, but when I have kids, I want to raise them according to the religion. There's a lot of different things. So the religious thing is massive. One of the main reasons the United States existed is so that we can have religious freedom. So it's not a small thing. Now, if you're not religious, for you it might be small, but you're combining lives with another person, so it doesn't really matter what you think while you're alone. The concept of this is to think about you as a couple with someone else. So ask about those things, because then you start to learn who you are as you're asking these questions and having these conversations. So it's important. Finances, money, yeah, that's important. Now, some of you have gotten way too crazy into the whole how much do you make conversation on the first date and whatever. Y'all can do what you want. There's going to be a whole other section about how to operate on a first date. Even though this is mostly for people who are in relationships, I understand that a lot of you are not. And so this is actually kind of good for you if you are a beginner or you're in the early stages. If you're early in the game and you don't really know what to do or how to bring it up, we're going to be going into that as the videos continue. But for right now, the concept of money needs to be talked about in a more abstract kind of a way. And you don't have to specifically bring up money like how much do you make, but you should know, is money important to the other person? How important is it to them? I can talk. It's not like I get paid to talk for a living or anything. Yeah, hope no directors are watching this. Anyway, when it comes to finances, when it comes to money, the craziest thing that you learn when you're in the financial sector is it's not so much people earning money or losing money that is the most important thing. It's the people's thought about money. Your thought about money really determines whether you have it or not. So you should know that as a person for yourself and for who you're with. What does that mean? To be more specific, did you grow up poor? Did you grow up rich? Did you grow up middle class? What did your parents teach you about money? Did they teach you how to save? Did they teach you that saving is important? Did they teach you to never have a credit card because those things are dangerous? Or did they teach you, nah, just use a credit card however you want? So these conversations are not about how much money the person makes, but they are about how they operate when it comes to money. And yes, you should have the conversation about, it's a little dicey, a little hairy, but hey, you gotta have these of how do you view a relationship in terms of breadwinner versus 50-50 versus man-woman relations with money, like all of that. All of that needs to be discussed. Now, how you do it, that's a whole other video, but for right now, you need to know the roles of money in your life in terms of, when you're working it together, but also how does that person view money? Do they chase it, where they're like, oh, I'm a bag chaser? Or are they into giving it away? Do they donate money to people? Do they give it to folks in need? I got an uncle who, he basically lives the YOLO life where all the money he makes a good amount, but he don't care about keeping any of it. And I'm like, what are you doing? I have to have conversations with him all the time. But how does that person that you're trying to be with, or you are with, how do they operate with money? You don't want to be with a kid and married before you find out this information. So have them conversations. Number 3, politics. Now, some people are not political. Some people are. Some people think that they're not. But then they are about some things. Some people are not political in the beginning of life and they get more political at the end of life. Yeah. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean you need to talk about, oh, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, I'm a liberal. Again, those are weird team names. What you really need to find out is someone's view on specific issues that can be seen as political. So how do they feel about entitlement programs? How do they feel about calling them entitlement programs? Entitlement programs are things like welfare or Social Security, things like that. So do they know what that is? Do they understand government and how it works in our country or the country that you're in? Because that speaks to their intelligence. Do they know anything? I saw a video the other day that tripped me out about how much, or how little rather, Americans know about our own country. Like, what y'all doing? Anyway, so have these conversations about specific issues like, not having kids. I'm trying to say this in a way that I can so YouTube doesn't, stab a brother's video because I said certain words, but, someone being pro-life or pro-choice or, there's a lot to get into. And if you don't have these conversations now, politics is something that can break up marriages, break up families, cause all kinds of beef and problems. But again, not even just the whole I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican, but specifically on the issues. Most people are fluid in the sense of politics, where they might be conservative on certain things, they might be liberal on certain things. You need to find that out from who you're with. Child rearing. Now, what does this even mean? So basically it means how you're going to raise your kids. Which begs the question, do you want kids? Do you already have kids? Do they have kids? Because again, every question you ask, you need to know that about yourself. Rule 1 is the rule for a reason. Because they're going to want to know. And by the way, this is a good test for you. If this is the beginning of your relationship and you're asking these questions to the other person and they're not wanting to know those same things from you, that's a problem. That tells you how well or how not well, unwell, not well, unwell, I know English, or how good or how bad they listen. Are they a good listener or are they a bad listener? Do they want to know about you? Do they care about you? So you, at the least, need to do your part and ask the questions, find out, and to know within yourself what your answers are. If they don't ask, if they don't want to know, that's a video for another time. But anyway, I digress. Point is, you need to know, do they want kids? Do you have kids? Do they have kids? The whole kid conversation. But mostly, How are you going to raise them when you have them? What's your plan? What do you think? Do you have roles? Is it where mom is in charge of the girls and dad is in charge of the boys? Is it who's going to be the disciplinarian? That's weirdly one of the things I've seen come up the most when it comes to couples, is one parent wants to be the fun parent and the other parent, who is the fun parent, who gets to be the fun parent, the one who ends up being the disciplinarian, sometimes resents the fact that they don't get to be the fun parent. And I do find that it does fall along gender lines. Generally, moms want to be the fun one, but generally dads are seen as the fun one. Again, video for another time. I know, there's like 15 videos that are going to be, watch them, they're here. And if they're not here, they're going to be here, so subscribe to this damn channel. Going to rear your children. Again, going back to the religion question. Are you going to raise them in religion? Are you going to teach them about money and finance? Are you going to teach them about politics? Do you care about politics? Do you care about getting good grades? Do you care about sending them to college? That's a big one too. Some people, especially if you're a millennial or younger generation, a lot of millennials are not about sending kids to college anymore. It's not about a college fund. In the financial sector, we would call it, or at least I would call it, with my clients, I would say it's a future fund. Because they were like, well, I don't want to send my kid to college. I don't believe in college. It's not great. And why? That's a whole other ball of wax. If you're like, I don't understand, why would you not send your kids to college? But there's reasons. But that thing in and of itself, how are you going to handle the life after they leave the nest? What is your plan? What is your plan for when your sons want to have girlfriends? What's the plan when your daughters want to have boyfriends? What's the plan when your daughters want to have girlfriends and your sons want to have boyfriends? What's the plan for that? Do you know what you believe in terms of discipline? Do you believe in hitting? Do you believe in not hitting? All of these are important because, again, everything you find out about this person, you might be thinking it's way too early to talk about kids. Yeah, maybe in your head, but again, you need to know as fast as possible who you're dealing with. You can ask these questions in abstract without it being a thing of like, I want to have a baby with you right now. But you need to know, because finding out these things about that person tells you things about them. You're not just learning the answers to these specific questions, you're also learning how that other person thinks. And that's how you should be doing it. Your conversation shouldn't just be, oh, my favorite color is blue, and then you leave it at that, and you write it down, favorite color blue. You should ask, like, well, what made your favorite color be blue? Like, is it the sky? Like, why? Like, what about that? Y'all ain't digging deep enough. Y'all aren't having these conversations to the extent that you should, and you end up in relationships that are all jacked up. And I'm often in a position where I'm weirdly having to tell these cats, if you had a time machine, things would be better because you can go back in time and redo these conversations from the beginning, basically. So, do it now. And if you haven't done it, do it now. Find something out. Learn some new stuff about your person. Objective of the relationship. Now, this is key. What are you here for? What are you doing? Are you playing? Y'all in it just to hit? Are y'all in it for the long haul? Do you believe in long-term relationships? Do you believe in marriage? Were you married before? Why are you with this person? What are you planning on doing? Are you in it forever, forever, ever, forever, ever? Or are you in it for, I believe in every relationship ends, they all got a season, you know. Like after a while, you know, you just get tired, you just leave. I don't know. When I'm done, I'm done. You need to know, is that who you're with? What is the objective? What are we doing here? If you don't know that, why are they coming to your house? Why are you hitting? Why are you doing all kinds of things that tie you to this person? Physically, emotionally, mentally, and you don't know who they are. To hell. Even if you're married, the objective isn't just about the end goal, so to speak, but also almost like an objective of the family. Like, let's say you're married, you got kids. What are we here for? What does our family stand for? Are we here just to subsist? Just to, you know, I eat, you eat, kids eat, they grow up, and that's it? Is your goal to be happy? Is your goal to be successful? How do you define success? How do you define happiness? What is the relationship objective? There was someone I was in business with a little while ago, and I was talking to him, and he had said something about a question that he asked his wife when they first got married, or might have been when they first got together. But he said, do you want money or do you want happiness? And she chose happiness. And so it dictates so much of their relationship, because if they have to choose between money and happiness, which sadly you'd have to do sometimes, they know which one to choose. And there's not this question, or there's not this juggling act of like, oh, we don't have time to make the choice, what do we do? And him having to guess what she wants, or her having to guess what he wants. They already know. They already had the conversation. So those are the kinds of things I mean in terms of the relationship objective. What you here for? What we doing? It's important. Next thing bleeds into family goals. So it's kind of the same thing, but family goals is also including things like pretty much what we just talked about in the list above, but more in depth in terms of dad's going to do this from this time to this time, mom's going to do this from this time to this time, planning things out. Like one of my clients where one person did their education first while the other person was working. So one person was doing their education first and the other person was working. And then they switched. Then this person's doing education and this person's working in their field. So the plan for the family was that. And while they had that, the person who was doing the education was also kind of doing most of the kids. And so the person who was working was the one doing overtime, extra hours, or what have you, to make sure that they could pay for school for the spouse as well as pay for school for the kids. And school as in like all the extracurricular stuff like soccer practice, basketball practice, or whatever. And so then when the switch happened, then the person who was working all this overtime, they got to chill out and spend more time with the kids and do education. And the other person who now has the degree, is able to go into their field, then they're the ones working and doing overtime while this other person is and doing things with the kids in terms of the domestic things. So what is the plan? The step-by-step how we're going to do this thing. And again, this is more advanced stuff. So if you're in a relationship that you just met this person and y'all like 2-3 weeks in, you maybe can save this conversation for a little bit later. But it is something that you could have, should have, fairly quickly. I believe in finding out about who you're with as soon as possible. If someone's afraid to have serious conversations with you, do they really need to be in a relationship with you? If you can't talk about it, can you really be about it? If that kind of fear makes you run, maybe they're not for you. Just saying. This is probably the oddest one for y'all to understand, but exit strategies. Now, what does that mean? Because it can't mean he can't mean what I think it means. Yeah, I mean exit strategy. What happens if you break up? Have you thought about that? Have you talked about that? Are you going to be friends? Who's going to get what if you do live together? Did you move into her house? She move into your house? Are you going to get kicked out? Is she going to get kicked out? Are you going to deal fairly with each other? Are you going to trip? Now, some of that might depend on how you end the relationship. If you cheat, hey, somebody going to be upset. If you steal money, somebody going to be... If you do horrible things, expect horrible reactions. So don't do horrible things. It's kind of simple. What is your exit strategy? Now, why is that important? Because even if people don't stick to it, because I hear y'all, I hear you, no one's going to stick to that, that's stupid. No, it's important. It's important to know what someone's original intention was. Because if they tell you from the bat, like, nope, once we break up, I'm going to go crazy. I would want to know that as soon as possible. Definitely. Number two, rules. You can set things up at the very least in terms of your rules, what you plan on doing. So with this person, once you've got your life intertwined, there's going to be things that pop up, like furniture you bought together, who's going to split it, pets you have together, how's it going to go with who? Again, if you live together, did you move into one person's apartment, or did you get one that you both moved in at the same time, a neutral zone? And if that's the case, when you break up, if you break up, who leaves, who stays, are you both leaving? How's that going to go? If you break up and you decide to stay together, are you going to be dating other people while you still live in the same house? Yo, I've seen some wild things. So, find out. But also things like family. She know your mama. She calls your mom every week. But now that you're broken up, do you want her still calling your mama? Do you want her all up in your family like that? Is that the case? You're friends with her brother. How's that going to work? Are you still going to be friends? Exit strategy conversations are important. Because again, not only are you setting things up just in case, you're also finding out who this person is. Their morals, their values, the things that they cherish, how they function when shit hits the fan. That's who people really are. You find out who people are in the extremes. When things are the most good and when things are the most bad. That's who people are. Now, oftentimes, you're more going to see it during the most bad, but also the most good. Don't count that out. What does that mean, the most good? They feel the best. They're at the top of their game. They have absolute power. They won the lottery. All of these things that reveal what they do when they have no restrictions. So don't think it's just the bad side that's going to show you who people are. If somebody wins the lottery, gets a bunch of money, and then they start acting wild, hey, but it's the same over here. Shit hits the fan. Do they run? Do they fold? Do they fight? Do they fight with you or do they fight for you? You gotta know. What's their plan? How do they handle adversity? So, those are just some of the conversations you all need to be having. I shouldn't have to keep rolling up in and asking certain questions and you guys are like, well, we never talked about... Like, what? What you mean you never... Y'all never talked about this? You never talked about how you're going to raise kids before you decided to have kids? Okay. Okay. That makes all the sense. Which of these topics surprised you the most? Write a comment down below and let me know if you were surprised at, like, exit strategy. I didn't think I should have that conversation, especially from the beginning or like as soon as possible, or what is it that surprised you? So let me know. And if you want a part two, that either A, breaks down these things a little bit more in depth, or part two as far as wanting other topics that you should be talking about, because this is just 7. There's a lot more. There's a lot more conversations that you should be having with your people as soon as possible. Find out who the f you're with. And I know these conversations are not easy. I already told you it's not going to be easy. Especially if you're married. Marriage is the hardest job you're ever going to have. These conversations ain't going to be easy. Maybe you might get lucky. And that should tell you something as well. You might get lucky and have somebody who's back and forth and you and everything matches and everything's meshing. And you're like, oh snap, I got me a good one. Oh. Because again, that's a good thing. You should be happy about that. But for the most part, people aren't perfectly meshed like that in terms of everything you think the other person thinks. And having those differences is a good thing. But easy? Nah. Most likely it's not going to be easy. Because remember, acquisition, getting the person, that part is easy. Acquisition is elementary. Retention is hard. So, we're a new channel, so help us grow a little bit. Subscribe, let a brother know, thumbs up or thumbs down, whether you liked it, let me know either way, alright? Now I know you liked that lesson, so come on back, click on another video and learn some more. Until I see you next time, deuce deuce.